Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where the orchard of wisdom shows are at your fingertips. It ignites your soul, your heart, your spirit, your mind, and your body with illumination from people who have made the journey before you. They're here now to help you on your journey, on your path of self-discovery. We are funded by you, the audience, and the people we interview. If you wish to support us, please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com and press on our Fund Action button. Anything is appreciated. We'd like you to sit back and enjoy the shows. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest all the way from the UK is Suswati Basu. Did I do it right?
Completely fine.
It is spelled totally differently from its pronunciation.
Throws everyone. Yeah.
But we really do have an extraordinary woman here today. She has got some health challenges that really could be quite encompassing for some people, but for her, it's just, all in a day. And she is very, very powerful she's a book researcher. She reads a book a day. She has a wonderful podcast where she interviews authors and also does a review on the books that she's read. Beautiful speaking voice, wonderful podcast. You can really get lost in them. So I really highly recommend you go to those. She's a multilingual, disabled intelligence expert, a journalist, mental health book show, podcast host, and an award-winning activist. She's also written for The Guardian, Huffington Post, the F Word blogs, and has worked for various media outlets such as BBC, Channel 4 News, and ITV News. She's a winner of the Emma Humphreys Memorial Prize winner in 2007, shortlisted for the Guardian Muriel Scott Prize the same year, and numerous other wonderful things. She has worked in India, China, and in the UK, and writes for it as a freelance basis. As a result, she speaks multiple languages, including Mandarin, Spanish, Hindu, is it Bengali?
Yeah, Bengali, Hindi, yeah.
Right, all of that, and just really, quite honestly, this is a very, very accomplished woman, but underneath it all, she's just beautifully, divinely humble, and as I say, I interview ordinary people doing extraordinary things, but she certainly is an extraordinary, ordinary woman. So welcome to the show, love.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, yeah, that was a mouthful. I apologize. I was like, oops. Yeah.
There's a reason why the British call everybody,
yeah.
There's a reason why the British call everybody Han and Love and sweetheart and everything else, right? Because we're notorious with names and things. And England is such a multi-diverse cultural place now. And you come from India, right? A long time ago.
Well, yeah, I was born and brought up in the UK, but obviously, like, my parents, have been there for, like, it's their generation that sort of been there. My dad was in this country, so it was sort of second generation now.
And I'm 67, brought up in England, and East Indian people were kind of definitely migrating at that point on quite a level, but we still didn't see other diversity of other colors and other nations. And now when you look at England, it is, as we would call it, a big hodgepodge of everything, which is actually really wonderful. I know you've got the purist kind of thing, but it's really wonderful because it's like a smorgasbord of wonderful delights to explore, wonderful cultures to dip into. It doesn't mean you have to become that culture. It's taking little ingredients from all of these cultures and kind of adding them to your own to spice them up. And so it's actually wonderful to be a part of a multicultural way of living. I married a Chinese gentleman, and at the time it was they're going to put her in a barrel, send her off to China, all of that type of thing. We have since divorced, but he gave me 3 beautiful children, and the culture is absolutely extraordinary. Indeed. And you interview authors, and when authors bring some of their own wonderful culture and expertise, it doesn't matter what they're writing, it's their own life experience that they're incorporating into it. And it really does add a wonderful ingredient into the dish in the book, doesn't it?
Oh God, yeah, totally. And I think that really makes it, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, because I look at like self-help, memoir, nonfiction, because in it, I think we've talked about this before, which is how the importance of storytelling,
Yes.
right? So whatever kind of medium you're discussing, whether it is a scientific medium, it's those anecdotes in the
Mm.
middle
Hmm.
that really stick in your mind, which I always sort of think, oh, this is a really good way to explain something to someone,
Yeah.
which is just to display that story to them. And they're just like, ah, yes, that's the importance of this. This is the crux of this.
Mm.
So yeah, these books are just incredible, like really incredible.
Mm. It's the relatability, isn't it? I don't care if it's a story from outer space or in another
Yeah.
world or whatever, something that's totally and utterly different to the life you know. But
Yes.
suddenly I feel like that too, or I've gone through that experience, or I really relate to that. And you don't know why you relate to it because
Yeah.
it's in a totally different arena to what your
Yes.
life is. But that relatability is there where you feel that it's speaking to you. And it's that
Yeah.
wonderful connection that you get. Now, you can get it with movies, you can get it with TV, but there's something about a book. Then when you're
Yes.
reading a book is, I think, because you're reading it purely from your perspective.
Yeah.
So it becomes very personal.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, because as you say, it is your perspective, and you're bringing to it your life
Mm-hmm.
experience. So, you meet somewhere in the middle of reading this book, and someone wrote this amazing quote, which is, "Reading is like traveling without moving,"
Mm.
which is exactly what it is. So you can just enter all these different worlds without ever needing to sort of leave your home, which has obviously been amazing during the pandemic for
Yes.
many people to just sit there and read, because obviously there wasn't much else to do.
Mm-hmm.
But just to sort of really enjoy books again in that shape, just by sitting and just really looking into it. But yeah, you can learn so much from people's experiences. And so I've like talked about so many different kind
Mm-hmm.
of subjects in the podcast, because it went for 52 weeks, so 52 different subjects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just incredible, because there were just so many moments that just stuck out. So where it started in, thinking about like really sort of important abilities to kind of conquer, like being more sort of motivated and
Yes.
making sure you know how to persevere, especially if you're notoriously like me and just give up after very quickly because you get bored. So, then I was like, actually, but there's more we can learn from books, which is
Mm-hmm.
the fact that we can learn from someone else's sort of experience about their culture. So,
Yes.
and this is so important. Like, being a good ally, I might not live the experience of someone who is
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQIA. I may not live the experience of someone who is African American or Black, but I would like to learn. I would like to learn how to be a better ally, and hopefully, by sort of reading these books and maybe talking about it from their perspective, just by reading out what they've written themselves, it might help someone else be a better ally, hopefully. So that was kind of the thinking behind it,
Mm.
that we can all be better people through reading other people's work. I really do believe that.
Yeah, and it's as you said, you don't have to be whatever they are to understand them. There's this beautiful word called empathy,
Hmm.
and it's, when you have an empathy for another person's story, you also do see some relatability to your own,
Hmm.
right? That connection, you realize, yes, they may be going through this struggle, or they may be, this is what they're facing, but fundamentally, at the core of things, we're not much different.
No,
Right?
no.
We're all looking for this. We're all looking for that. We all want to be seen as this. We all want to stand as that. And,
Mm,
whatever it is, the challenge could be your race, could be your disability, could be your sex, could be your finances,
mm,
and we've all got something that is an obstacle in our way. But
hmm.
that's the whole part of life's journey, is to face
Definitely.
that obstacle and go, okay, obstacle, am I going over you, under you, around you, or am I obliterating you? But
Yeah,
that is what life is to do. Where's your strength? Where's your courage? Where's your
yeah.
ability? So, when you read something, I always say inspiration begets invitation. So when you're inspired by something, it invites you to look at yourself and go, you know what? Maybe I could.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly that. And I think people write these kind of books just to do so, just so that they can sort of create this kind of feeling as well. I really do believe there's a lot of thinking behind these kind of books, nonfiction, memoirs, where they really do believe they can spark some level of inspiration through them, which
Yes.
because obviously they might have gone through certain things and by sort of showcasing what they've been through. And I think this just comes to mind, Bobby Conn, who was an author based in the Appalachian mountain area in Kentucky. Obviously has gone through the massive opioid crisis in that region, and her describing her own family going through this opioid crisis, so the political becoming personal.
Yes.
So important, these kind of subjects, and also talking about intergenerational trauma. And it just affects so many different people from whichever background, whichever culture. And it's just like, I totally see where you're coming from. I might not have the same experience as you.
Yeah. I don't want it.
No, exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to immerse yourself into that experience to understand or have empathy for it, right?
That's right. Exactly. So it's just kind of understanding, like, we're all connected in some shape or form. We all have the same struggles. We all have the same battles, and we're all trying to win at something.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I find really important about these books, that, we're all connecting in some shape or form. I'm reading the same book where someone else across the world is probably reading it too.
Yeah, I mean, if for me, we just triggered a podcast I did many, many years ago, I think about 9.5 years ago. A wonderful woman who her family were hillbillies, they really were kind of, the backwater, and they were all alcoholics. And at 15, she had a drink in her hand, and she made a conscious decision. She said, I know if this touches my lips, which way I'm going. And she put it down, and she actually became kind of a grieving coach for people with loss and alcoholism and everything. She managed to turn certain members of her family around, but consequently she lost 10 members of her family to alcoholism. And it was, that grieving that she went through of just not being able to break the pattern. Not being able to turn the tide, even when she did for a while and thought, oh, they're out of it, boing, like an elastic band, they were back in it. And so her work then became so important because she truly understood grief. She truly understood sorrow, or the inability to help someone, because ultimately other people can be there to guide us and help us and share tools and skills with us, but it's up to us if we're going to walk the walk. Nobody else can save us but ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, these sort of self-help books, they're only just a guide.
Exactly.
It's not doctrine. You're not supposed to follow it, like, blindly. You really do just sort of pick and choose what you think will work for you, but you've got to put the work in.
Yeah. That goes to the title of your podcast and the name of the show, How to Be. Right. And it's like the how to be, and you've got ... which is, one can be inspired by your own journey, because you do have a disability, which I'd like to share with people, because this is your challenge, your obstacle. But you've chosen how to be through it, how to live your life, where to put your emphasis. And, that doesn't mean that your disability doesn't sometimes, develop claws and, and becomes a little more challenging on one day to another. But it's, the reason why I chose to put under this genre of choose positive living, because you are epitome of that. You could have gone under authors, you could have gone under Ignite Your Heart and Soul. You have chosen that no matter what your obstacle is, no matter what your background is, and I know that we're not going to talk about it today, but you definitely have come from some horribly traumatic things in your life, but you chose to rise up. You chose how to be in the world, right? And so you're a wonderful inspiration for people who are like, this has happened to me. And you're going, yeah, yeah, but this is how to get back up.
Yeah,
Will you share with
definitely.
us what your disability is so people can understand it? Because I know it's a very different type of one to a mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Most doctors are like, what?
Yeah.
And they're just like, I have no idea what you have. And so it essentially it's the closest thing to it is it's a cousin of multiple sclerosis. It's called hereditary neuropathy with liability to pressure palsy. So that's a real big mouthful. Yes, a very long name, and it's shortened to HNPP. And it just it morphs into various other conditions because it's just the nature of the condition. So you end
Mm,
up with like various things like carpal tunnel or
mm,
slipped discs and sciatica and this, that, and the other. But it is degenerative in the same way multiple sclerosis is. So it affects my arms and my legs. And so there have been times, well, I've never had my arms fully functioning again since 2017, which
mm,
is when my first big relapse happened. And my legs haven't like properly sort of, I'm getting some movement back and stuff from my first big fall in 2017 as well, later that year.
mhm.
So that was a heck of a year, not being able to walk or use my arms. And so it's most some of it's come back, but not fully. I will always need a stick, or
Mhm.
sometimes I need a wheelchair, and I do have a walker. So it's kind of a ongoing,
Right.
ongoing journey.
And
Yeah,
that's it is unfortunately, the way it's going to be for you. There is no,
yeah.
oh, I've got a cure for that. Positive
Nope.
thinking, you know.
Oh God, I
Yeah, yeah.
know.
Now, I'm a full advocate for positive thinking because I do believe what you feed will what will grow. But I'm
Sure.
also fully aware, having my own little minor disability,
Yes.
that there are certain things that are broken down in the body and
Hmm.
that you can energize and pour as much as positive energy in there that
Yeah,
may slow it down, may ease the pain, may help the disease not to take such a
definitely.
grip. Absolutely.
Mm,
But these diseases, when the body breaks down, some of them are just not repairable, and that is the way it
exactly.
is. And so the gift of it, because we've always got to look for that, is I look upon it as a redirect. Why and
Mm,
why do we get it? Because that's the first
indeed.
question we know. Why?
Yeah.
Why me? And and it's in my case, I think it was to slow me down
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
think I was chasing things in the wrong direction, and it was to slow me down and have me focus in the direction I was meant to go in.
Mm,
But it is also how to be what I want to be, within these parameters, because
yeah.
you've been given a challenge, but that doesn't mean your life is over,
Hmm.
right?
Definitely.
You
Yeah,
know,
because
you're
for me,
you're an
sorry.
intelligence expert. You know how to use your brain, your wit, your enthusiasm, and the more you pour that into it, right, the more it actually even helps your disability.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was the weirdest things because I actually thought it would be inevitable that I would
Mm,
one day get sick because, as you mentioned, I went through a lot of trauma growing
yes,
up. And so, in my mind, I did believe that inevitably my body will just not be able to handle the level of trauma
right,
eventually. It was basically, and I have a nervous system disease as a result. I
right,
really do believe there's a connection in there.
yes,
So of course at first I was, like just devastated. I didn't really understand what was happening. And then obviously with a condition where no one's heard of it, you don't get much help.
yes.
But one thing I realized was that I was going at, like you, at 100 miles an hour.
Hmm.
And I was just basically, first of all, exercising like a lunatic. And so I was like, wow, this, and actually that was what was causing my body to break down quicker than
Right.
most,
Overdoing it.
overdoing it. And then I was like, oh my God, I don't have my job right now. I can't work right now. And I was like, my entire identity had been wrapped up in my
Mm,
work. And I was like,
yes.
okay, so who am I now? And that's where it really started to strike me. I was just like, okay, you are a human being. You are not a human doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why does it take the cosmic 2x4
Right?
for us to get that?
Yeah.
Know? we're
So it's
so
just,
much
yeah,
emphasis on the doing, right? And on the
yeah.
achieving, you
Oh
know,
God.
that, you know, instead of the being who you're meant to be, because that is enough, and that then radiates a different light form altogether.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so, like, you know, so throughout the years, I had multiple relapses. I have one almost every like major one every 6 months to 1 year. And so I had one in so during pandemic again, so sort of end of 2020, which is where the podcast actually started. Uh, oh, sorry, I think you froze
Nope,
for a
nope,
second.
I'm here.
All
I'm
right.
here.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah. All right.
here.
So I was like, yes. So it just that's when it started at the end of November 2020, and I was going through a relapse, and I was like, oh no, not again.
Mhm,
And so I was just like, you know, I've got to occupy myself during
mhm,
this relapse, essentially. And I was like, what am I going to do? Read? How am I going to deal with certain things? And I was like, oh my God, I can't do public speaking at all.
mhm,
It just, oh my God, I get so petrified because this all started after trying to do a presentation at work, and I actually just like threw up like before and after the presentation because I absolutely fumble and I get very scared. So I was like, okay, aversion therapy, I'm
mhm.
gonna do a podcast.
If you can't do it one way, you find another,
Exactly.
right?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was just like, find a solution, find a
Yes.
different way.
Yes.
Yes, and it was the right thing to do because 52 weeks after, I just happened to have to do an interview in a like a for work and do a presentation, and I felt okay.
Hmm.
And I was like, all that, you know, speaking to people,
Yeah.
doing the podcast actually paid off. So there was something to it.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean about the public speaking. You know, my stomach does complete and utter
Oh,
turmoil, and I'm a free flower, so I have, you know, bullet points. And then it's
mhm.
like I'm reading the energy in the room, and then what comes in between is, you know, very organic. And you can do that in a podcast. And then um, back in my younger days, you know, it didn't worry me so much because I had something to say and I would stand up and say it. You know? And then you get to that, oh, you know, overconscious thing of like,
Yeah,
what if I'm not saying it right? Are they looking at me weird? You know, and we become our
yeah,
own worst enemies, right? You know, we
totally.
sabotage ourselves completely. And you know, I'm coming up to my 10th year of podcasting. And
Mm.
when I first started off, I didn't even know what a podcast was. I was doing it live with a different network. And it was such a wonderful training ground because
Mm.
through that, I discovered me. I
Hmm.
discovered
Yeah,
really kind of what I felt I was here for. And within my parameters for my own health, which was
yes,
kind of, I was going through a great deal of outward stress at that time. So
yeah,
that triggers, you know, your inward stress, right? And so it was a wonderful self-discovery of myself. And through all the people that I've interviewed, you cannot help but come away with all these
yes,
wonderful nuggets of information, of
indeed.
illumination. And
Yeah,
you know, you can't help but apply it to your own life because that's the gift
definitely.
of it, isn't it?
Exactly, because that's what it does. It fills the gaps. It fills the
Mm,
gaps in places where you think you're maybe like lacking in certain ways, like, or you've never really learned. And, you know, because I'm not sure if it was similar for you, but growing up, I didn't really understand how to be, you know, sort of motivated
mm.
or, you know, and you don't get taught resilience at school and you don't get taught
No,
really basic
submission, not
things.
resilience.
Exactly. And especially as a woman, you know, as a girl, you don't really get taught these things, and
No,
at school definitely not.
right.
And so, you know, I was just like, just talking to people just helps sort of fill in that information
Mm,
gaps.
hmm.
um where it's just like where you just didn't know where to start in trying to be like resilient, and then you realize, oh, actually maybe I have been, but I just didn't realize.
Yeah, you weren't ready to receive the information at that time. Now you are more
Mm,
open to receiving it. And I think that, you know, we become exposed to information all the time.
mm,
But, you know, I'm a knowingness person. So I believe that you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people put a great deal of emphasis on our CPU, our head, our intellect, our data. And that's wonderful. You know, if you can stack all that knowledge in and you know how to use it, fantastic. But I firmly believe that if the heart and soul is not, and the spirit is not a part of the equation, which is the wisdom, how do you know which knowledge is relevant for the time?
Absolutely.
Right. And so it's knowing that there are a lot of beautiful, profound things. There are a lot of things out there that we need to know. But it's when we need to know it that I think is more important, because then it means something to us and we know what to do with it. But knowledge for knowledge's sake, I feel not only some people can lord it over you, but I feel it gets lost. It gets misused because you're not using it applicably to the moment, to the situation.
Yeah, I totally agree, because I think I grew up exactly like that, where I had all the theoretical knowledge, but had no idea, or maybe I just wasn't ready at that point to really understand how to put that in a practical use. And it's just one day it can switch.
Yes.
It can just switch on. Like, it's that easy. You go, oh, okay. Now it makes sense. I packed away that information in my mind, but now it makes sense.
Yes, I understand what it's here for now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then also when you talk to other people, and again, like with these books, they're mirrors to you. So it is quite useful, because sometimes, like some of the books I've read over the years, like very, very important books, like The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, who's a very, very famous psychologist, talks about how trauma is basically kept inside the body. And and these books are pretty profound in many ways for people who are survivors and things like that. So the moment they start reading these things, suddenly something just opens up. It's just like, whoa, hang on a second, I didn't realize that. And so there are those kind of books where they really are just mirrors on your own experience, but you just never realized that was, you weren't ready for it at that moment.
I think an awful lot of people I've interviewed that have written their own books, their own memoirs, every single one of them said that, like, I was flattened. I was in a complete pool, of tears. Of that, I didn't realize how heavy this was that I'd been carrying. And what a wonderful release it was, that now they can talk about the things that happened to them, which as a reader or an interviewer, it's like, how did you get through it? Because you look at some of the things that they've gone through and you know what I'm talking about. How did you get through it? Because everything should have been, I wouldn't have blamed you if you decided to exit with what went on. And yet that's when they found their strength and their courage and their abilities and their, a reason to move on. And, they could talk about all of that now without any of the pain associated, because they've released it.
That's it.
I've been nagged to write my book, and as you said, I was meant to start this Christmas, but everything went wrong. So best laid plans, right? And I realized why. 4 years ago, I wanted to write my book from my angel's perspective. Oh boy, she's doing it again. The angel trying to guide me and me going off in every other direction. And then, other people said, no, we want to hear, your story, what happened to you. And my own daughter brought up something that happened to me. We want to know more about that. What makes Sarah Sarah? And it's like, every time I kind of went to go and start it, something would happen and good, And I realized, it needs to be the angel's perspective, because that's the only way I can actually view my life. Right. And it's the only way I can tell my story, because in many ways I've moved on from it. But it's also made me who I am. Right. So sometimes we've got to be grateful for the things that have happened to us. Right. Would I like to repeat it? No, but I understand it's what made me who I am today, or it's what redirected me into the right direction. But the revisiting it kind of from that trauma type of thing, I don't want to tell. I want to tell it from, the angel trying to guide me. And this is not a fiction, because my angel has worked overtime with me. She's the other side of me, has always been working hard to bring me into my authenticity of who I really, really am. And it was me avoiding it all along the line. And, I think that's the thing is, if you are going to write a book, there are some people very disciplined. They have their chapters all out. They know their content, this and that, and they're very kind of fanatical and disciplined. And I interview those people. And one guy I interviewed, he took 11 years of research to do his book.
Wow.
Right? And other people 4 years to do the book. And then other people, I sat down and my fingers started typing. Right. And I think I'm going to be more that with, coming from that angel's voice, and let it just go. And I think there is no wrong or right way. It's whichever way is true to you. And that when you read a book, don't you?
Yes,
that book is that this was kind of a text type style book where it's like, they followed, written by numbers, or that this is truly a book that you could feel them in it, no matter what they're talking about. You can really feel the story because you could feel them.
That's true. I'm like, obviously with the personal stories, for sure, you can feel them. But there are certain people like who are extremely experienced at the process of writing. So I remember speaking to Jill Hanson, who's written like 30 books, and she writes like 2 a year or something insane. And they're very, very well received books. I was like, how the hell do you do that? And she was just like, it's just natural to me because, again, I will just start writing and it will just come out. And I was like, wow. So she's got some kind of discipline that's already inbuilt. So I think also through experience, you're able to just sort of write something from start to finish so easily. But then, as you say, other people are talking from a place where they're really in touch with what they're trying to write. So especially like, things like grief and things like that. Obviously, as you say, it's really important to try not to re-traumatize yourself when you're writing.
Exactly.
This is it.
It's, and if it does get to that point, allow it to release, because that's, you don't want it trapped in the body. We want it gone. The trapped in the body does create dis-ease in the body, which will come and manifest out in some form of disease. Definitely. So, most diseases either could be a malfunction within the body, or could be lay dormant, as it did with you for so long. But then the sheer trauma that you did not release is eventually ignited it, which it may not have been inevitable had you released beforehand, but it released it for you in this way.
And then obviously other kind of diseases like depression, and that is very common. So processing is really important. So you're writing, if you're being re-traumatized, make sure you process this properly. It's very important. Go and seek help if you need, definitely. They might be able to even help you through the process of writing as well.
So I mean, please don't go down the rabbit hole on your own. I know it's an awful place to be. Somebody's just come in and got your gut and pulled it right out, and there's no rationale in that. There is no snap out of it. Just think positively. No, it is a chemical reaction that's going on of despair. And it really can grab hold of you. My brother is, he has what you call a discipline, I call it like a strategy, that is his structure. So he'll walk in the morning, come back, and he's at his computer writing. Back in the days, he would take a notebook and go off to the cafe and write for hours and then come back and redo it. Now he goes up to that computer, but he has his structure the way he does it. But once he gets in there and starts typing, he allows the characters to become, right? And it's the dictating of how the characters could be, I think very often it is where it gets lost in a script or in a book, because when I talk to authors and it's like, the person just took on a life of their own. I'm reading back and go, who are you? And I'm typed it, but they just took on a life, and that is, kind of that channeling, of everything, and allowing it to be and allowing it to come up. And I think if an author is excited about reading back their own book, then you're onto something.
I think so. I agree. God, can you imagine reading back your own book and being bored. That's not a good sign. Yeah.
Yes. We want that relatability. We want the excitement. We want to come away with a piece of knowledge we didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I think you can put down a book and you keep thinking about that book, or you keep referring that book, or you know, that book comes up in a conversation. And then you know that that book really had an impact on you.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. There are so many books like that. I think this year I read quite a few books like that where it really stuck in my mind. Like one in particular, for example, was by author and journalist Purna Bell, who wrote several very best-selling books like Chasing the Rainbow, where she describes the death of her husband through he was a secret heroin addict. And you know, it was just suffering from depression and just having like basically processing the grief through that. And then she wrote her new book, which was called Stronger, which is everything I thought I knew about women's strength, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was not about mental strength, because we hear about that a lot. We hear about women's mental strength a lot, and emotional strength, because we are kind of like lionesses in that field.
Yeah. Don't underestimate a woman when push comes to shove, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. So this was from the perspective of physical strength, which I thought was really unique, because we don't hear about women's physical strength. And that's where she starts describing from school times the fact that we are not taught properly how to be physically active and enjoy sports. We are told that we are supposed to be small, we are supposed to be thin,
meek and mild,
and and that we end up doing sports as adults that are completely different to the sports that we start off with in school, because we are so disheartened and disillusioned. And she is now a power lifter, which I think is incredible. And I'm very small and she's about my height. I think it's about 5'3". And, you know, she is like lifting 130 kilos. And she said, I got bigger, but that it didn't matter, because strong is not a size. And I was just, yes. And, you know, and having lived through an eating disorder as a child, it was really severe. And that was always sort of pumped into my mindset, which is, you must be small, you must be thin. And because I was quite a chubby child, you know, as children go.
Yes, they're accordions, you know, thin as they grow tall and chubby, and that's the way it's meant to be, right? Leave their weight alone.
Exactly. And then in South Asian culture, it's very common to kind of feed with love, like, you know, and that's the problem. But at the same time, criticize being overweight. So there's like a no-win situation in here.
Right.
And eventually all of those sort of messages I was bombarded with, and I ended up with a very, very serious eating disorder. And so having gone through this relapse recently, which has made me grow 3 sizes up in the space of 6 months, it was so heartening to be able to read a book where it says it doesn't matter what size you are. You know, even though I am now I actually am a mentor at an eating disorder charity, so I'm able to kind of process and deal with it and talk to younger people about having an eating disorder. You know, it never goes away, because it's a form of an addiction. So you have just a way to manage and maintain that sort of thinking. So yes, there are times where it might just suddenly start sort of niggling at you again. But, you know, having read a book like that, just at that moment, where I was just like having that moment of like panic, essentially, it was just really heartening to be like, okay, I can hold myself through my strength and through my physical strength, even if I can't like lift weights or anything.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I can do the basic, which is, you know, be happy in my size, be happy just doing the basic things I can, which is like being able to go for a walk maybe one day. And that was enough.
Yeah, it's your triumph. It's based on your abilities. You know it. And it's like, you know, when we're criticized, you know, at the age of 12, I looked like Twiggy. You know, in England, people know who Twiggy is, the model back in the 60s. But I was 12, you know, and then I developed hips and, you know, more of an hourglass. And then I was, you know, at 16, I was modeling, but I was modeling women's clothing, not teenage clothing, because I had a shape. And, you know, it was a good enough shape for those times. And then later on, the emaciated shape came along, and I was not meant to be, you know, that. And I always seem to have people, I love you, but you need to lose weight, you know, and it's like that guilt of my weight. And, you know, I'm 67 now and I'm chubby. And you know what? It's like, I sleep with me. My teddy bear doesn't care what my weight is, because I sleep with a teddy bear, right? And it's like, if loving me means you can't love me because I'm a few pounds weightier, then clearly we're not talking the same love, right? No. But it took me kind of that lifetime to, you know, that self-consciousness of, because what it translates to is you're not worthy.
Definitely.
Right? You're not worthy. And this is where I say the society's dictation is so detrimental, because through media, through movies, now through social media, through the expectation, you know, from parents, from boyfriends, from other loved ones, you've got to be. You've got to be this, you've got to be that, you can't do this, you can't do that, you must fit in. And everybody, and they want everybody. And then when you do, why don't you stand out?
So social media is so bad for this.
But you know, social media is only reflecting that was always there. Right? It's always been there. You know, my very first article I wrote is "What Maketh a Woman," and I said, you know, I am so tired of certain skinny people designing for me as a woman, because they're designing within their own image, their own eyes image, not mine.
No, and even though the average size is like a size 14.
Exactly. And I've been made to feel that I'm big and fat and unworthy of dressing nicely. Right. Exactly. And it's like, no. We used to celebrate women for their curvaceousness. Right. And they were goddesses. And now what are they?
And they were powerful.
Powerful.
They were powerful.
They in every way.
In sports and things like that. And you know, I was reading again part of this episode where I was reading about women's physical strength, where there was another book by, I think, Hayley Shapley, who was also a powerlifter, and she talked about the history of women's strength, which was fascinating, because she was talking about the Greek era, where, you know, there were women secretly going into these big arenas fighting against men, and were able to absolutely hold their own. And
the Amazon women, right? You know, there's been plenty of always women doing this. It's just it was not acceptable in the public eye.
No.
Right. And you know that book obviously came to you at the time that you needed it. And I always believe a book comes to you, you know, when you need it, when there's something in it that you need to know. The power of books, as well as the podcasting and the talking about them, is that somebody is going through something that they're confused about, or they're having a struggle with. And then this book will touch on it in whichever way, and it gives them permission to be.
Yes, exactly.
It's okay to be you. Don't apologize in being you. No. As long as you are nurturing you, loving you, taking care of you, mind, body, heart, and soul. As long as you are looking after you, whatever your packaging in, or your challenging is, or ethnicity, sex, economics, whatever it is, you know, the authenticity of you is all that matters.
Yes, definitely. And what's really unique is that you can read a book several times and you will find a different aspect. Suddenly it will just sort of highlight. And suddenly, you're like, oh yes, this is important to me now.
Going back to that knowingness and knowledge, right? The knowledge was there, but if it didn't apply, it was not what you needed to know at the time, right?
Exactly. So, you know, what you know, we're very, you know, we should be very grateful to have books in our lives, you know, honestly. And so I think, you know, given that we're living in a world where it's starting to fade, a bit more. You know, libraries are closing and things like that. I think there seems to be a little bit of a kind of a movement sparking against.
I think the pandemic definitely did that.
Yeah.
You know, and people read on their Kindles, but it's not good for you to read on the Kindle. You know, I'm 7 hours a day at the computer. It's not good for your eyes to then pick up. I also still a person that my people that I offer for this is one. It's a true story, actually. The girl with the green lipstick, but it's a guy that was, I think the term is catfished. You know, the woman caught him, married him, and then said, I want the house here. And he bought her a house there, but he was still working over there, and she moved her lover in. All right. So what he's done is he's told the true story, but just frillerized it a little bit. She actually put a hit out on him as well. And it's like, he was an intelligent person. He owned many businesses, and he'd been married before she had died. And it's like he had all the warnings, but, he was kind of caught up in this. And it's, and it becomes a kind of a good awareness for men out there,
Yeah.
But he's decided to tell it more in a story format rather than a biography, because he feels that it's somehow kind of intrigues people a little bit more. So the truth is in there, but being elaborated like the movies do. They take, a biography and they titillate it into something else, right? So
sometimes it's seen to be more palatable, when it's written in a story form, because I think a lot of people find it very difficult to be like, oh, truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah. It is. I mean,
which it is.
Yes. I mean, why are we so ready to accept fiction as real? And when it comes to the truth, you're kidding. That could never happen.
Exactly. Strange that.
Yes. Strange, but true.
But true.
You remember that program?
I actually do. I used to love that program, but the music used to scare me as a child.
Yes.
I loved it.
Yeah. And I don't know if it ever has reruns or anywhere else, but it's worthwhile watching, because yes, there are so many things out there in life that are true. And yet we look at it and go, nah, it can't be. This special effects, fake news. And yet, why are we so afraid of the truth when it's out of ordinary?
Indeed. Like one of my favorite books is The Men Who Stare at Goats by John Ronson. It's so bizarre. They made a Coen brothers made a film about it because it is so strange, where the US military had basically trained a group of US soldiers to try and stare at goats to see if they can use mind control on them.
A vague recollection of that, right? Yes.
Again,
the word bizarre sometimes definitely has to come into play. Yeah.
But just fascinating. Some of the real things are just more fascinating than some of the fiction.
Yeah. Well, there was I don't know if it was an Outer Limits or a Twilight Zone. Because the Outer Limits was kind of a a remake of the Twilight Zone. So I'm not quite sure which one it was, but it was about 200 years into the future, and everybody had a chip in their head, so nobody needed to retain any information. It was just like, I need to know this. But there was one guy where the chip didn't work, so he was considered the moron. Ultimately, nobody was maintaining the computer, and it went down, and he ended up being the teacher, because they did not know how to retain or access or write or do anything, because they relied on it. Now, hey, Google.
That's frightening.
And I do believe in not so near future, we will have the chip in us.
Well, actually, I went to a talk just last night with a very famous author called Johan Hari, who's written a number of really amazing books on addiction and things like that. And his new book is about focus. And he said he went to some of the top thinkers on focus, and they admitted themselves that they no longer could focus themselves. They were too busy playing video games and stuff.
Right.
These were just, this was how serious it was.
Yes.
And he said, but the good news is, he said he went and got completely unplugged for 3 months on an island where there wasn't just anything there. There was one street where, basically you didn't need Google Maps or anything.
Right.
You'd never get lost. And he said his focus started coming back.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's a relief to hear, because
Yes.
we are living in this chip world at the
Yeah.
moment.
Well, I've got a show coming up in the future on our next generation being the dumb generation, because everything is head into the phone and they can't think for
Yeah.
themselves. They can't have a conversation. They
Nope.
talk in emoji, and
Oh
it's
God.
and it's it is that, these are our future leaders when they only can text each other or
Yep.
emoji each other. They don't know how to communicate. And it's, all of these, we're doing these shows on a
Yeah.
computer. You do your podcasts, on a
This is it.
computer or a phone. They are wonderful tools. The car is a
Yes.
wonderful tool, but we're not
It's a
asking you
tool.
to become the car,
No,
but
this
we
is the
are
problem.
becoming the computer in a sense.
Yes.
We're losing our humanity. And you know how back in, I think, 56 and 70s, it was all about androids taking over the world.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have
Yeah.
taken over the world. It's called the phone. I've got an
Yes.
Android phone, and and it's taken us over by making us lazy, thinking for us,
Yep.
and communicating for us, where we're losing that ability to do it for ourselves. So,
Yeah.
the life really, and I think one of the things to learn through life experience, through books, through everything, is about balance, isn't it?
Indeed. Definitely. Definitely. And that's the thing, is that it shouldn't be dogma either. So you again, there's balance in reading the books as well.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, don't just submerge yourself from one book to the other and never
Mm,
have a conversation anywhere about
no.
it, right? And
Exactly.
that's called extremism.
That's it.
And it's very
Exactly.
easy to become an extremist. And then this is where, okay, I'm doing too much of this. I need to step back. Oh, nature's out there. Oh, a tree. I haven't looked at one of you in a
Yeah,
while.
exactly. That's it. And that's what's really important as well. So if you're reading about nature, remember to put down the book at one point and go into nature. Put it
Participate
into
with nature.
practice.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Why did you name your podcast How to Be?
If weirdly enough, it came to me in the middle of the night. It struck me like gold,
The
as we
best
say,
time. The best time. That's when
always.
it's meant to be. Yep.
And I had a sort of, I think in the middle of the night, it was dark. I had a pen next to my bed and I just wrote it down on a scrap piece of paper. And it was just something about it stemming from the fact that the idea of how, human doing and human being.
Yeah.
And I was just like, how to be is so important, because also we could be so many different things. It's a spectrum of so many different
Yeah.
emotions, abilities, and not all of them are correct, not all of them are, completely incorrect.
Right.
So, things like, which is why I describe sort of emotions like sadness, with the importance of sadness, the importance of loneliness and
Yes.
solitude. It's good to have a bit of everything.
Mm.
um, and that's
Balance
the
again.
point. Balance
Balance
again.
again. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a knowingness advocate, an igniter, soul, heart, spirit igniter. I've been that not only in this lifetime, in many. This is what I came here to do. And it's each lifetime, of course, is a different way of doing it. And I've done it many ways in this lifetime, and this last almost 10 years been doing it this way. And it is about your beingness, the essence of who you are. I did a show yesterday on grief.
Yeah.
And it's on, your pet grief, when a pet goes, or when a human goes, but we kind of were focusing on the importance of pets because they shine bright for so long in your life,
They do.
and
They
then
do.
they're gone. But it's like the essence of who they are that they leave behind inside of you. And I think one of the things we've got to understand is these bodies were in our vessels for us
Yeah.
to have this beautiful divine experience, this
Yeah.
heart, soul, spirit experience. The human experience is being able to articulate the inner essence of ourselves. And that when
Yeah.
we do go, we want our essence to have been left with other people. That
Yes,
when they think of
definitely.
you, or there's something about you left inside of them because of the impact that you had on them. So we always like to know we've left a little of ourselves behind. But I think that again comes into the beingness, and the beingness is, can you be at one with self
This is it.
and
This
not
is
feel
the,
alone,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the journey, really, isn't it?
That's the thing, because I think people really struggle to kind of grapple with the idea that we're just a blip in
Yes,
this universe. And, but I think it's okay that we're a blip in this
yes.
universe. And so you've got to make the most of the time that you have, and
Don't waste time.
don't waste time. Be accepting of the fact that, yes, this will end, but
Hmm.
then make the most of it.
And this will end, the body.
The
This
body will
particular
end.
life experience will end.
Yes.
But everything
And
it's learned will continue on in some form.
exactly.
Because the
And
universe
so
doesn't waste anything.
it doesn't waste anything. Energy is always converted.
Yeah.
And, there is a whole science behind it. And there is
Mm.
science behind it.
Yes, there is.
There's reason why we still have parts of the Big Bang still within us.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, like a phoenix, that somebody described me as a phoenix. They say, your spirituality kind of goes up and then into flames and back down again.
Yeah,
And I think that
exactly.
was one of the things that I needed to calm down, because I was too much for people, kind of
Mm.
in that, and I needed to kind of calm it down. And that's when, my fibro got worse and other things
Mm.
happened. And then this focused me in, on the lens, so to speak, and brought that down so that it's more, transcending rather than, you know, um, smothering in some ways, because I think it was
Exactly.
too much energy for most people. And the thing is, it wasn't this lifetime for me to shine that bright, right?
Yeah.
But you turn the light dimmer up to what other people can see, but never turn it down that you lose sight of yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Again, a balance,
Yes,
finding a balance, so that you don't burn out, literally.
right.
So that's really important, because it's so easy to just
Yeah.
go down that road.
I mean, as I said in the beginning, it would be so easy for you just to become your disability.
Yeah,
And many people
yeah,
do. I am fibro, I am multiple, I am this. No, you're not. You have it,
yeah,
right? and
exactly.
and it's part of your challenge in life. It's part of, a reason for it, though sometimes we may never know exactly what that reason is, right? But
Yeah,
it hasn't stopped you. It may have slowed you down, it
no.
may have redirected you, but it's here. You are now done 52 podcasts, and I hope there's another 52 coming up here in
Oh yeah,
2022.
hopefully.
Good.
Yes.
Because you really are a beautiful speaker, and the way you do your podcast it's really beautifully done. I really give you kudos on that.
Thank
It's
you.
very easy to listen to and very insightful, but very
Good.
rhythmical, which is, for me, I love rhythm. So
Oh, good.
you're very rhythmical in the way that you do it. Um, and so you've redirected your cannots into how-tos and
Yes,
how to be, you know,
this is it.
putting it into something else, and that is exemplary, because it shows people that we're not the sum of our struggles. Our
No.
struggles are there to show us how awesome or flawsome we really
Mm.
can be.
This is the thing, and I never ever consider my disability to be a negative,
Mm.
because I see it as part of me, as I am Indian, as
Yeah.
part of me as I
Yes.
am British.
Yeah.
It is just part of my identity.
Yeah.
So yes, it just means I do things slightly differently, or I
Yeah.
have a different mindset because of it. It doesn't
Right.
mean, I don't see it as a limitation in the same way, because I believe people may limit me, try
Yeah.
to limit me, because that's the social model of
Right.
disability. But I don't believe it in itself is limiting.
Right. Though you have limitations
Mm.
on physically what you can do, it has not limited you to what you want to do.
Absolutely. Because I can
Mm.
still work, for example.
Exactly.
I just have adaptations, which
Yes.
means it's all possible.
Right, just like we have had with
Mm.
COVID, adaptations, pivoting into,
Exactly.
my son, with my fibro, for a long time, every time I saw him, Mum, you need to do this, Mum, you need to do that. And it would always make me feel
Mm.
small. And then one day I just grabbed his hands and I said, please, I know you love me and I know you care, but stop telling me you need to fix me, because you make me feel broken.
Exactly. And you're not broken. That's
Just
the thing.
purely put your loving arms around me and realize how much that fortifies me.
Mm.
It was a complete light bulb on this thing. It's like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize that. And it also took the weight off his shoulders of that I've got to fix my mother, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's like, yeah, I'm an old car that's still working. I can still get from A to B, but there's a bit of rattling going on.
Exactly what it is.
And yet, no, I can't chase after, I know that when my little grandson of now nearly 10 months is going to be running, I'm not going to be able to run after him. He's going to be on that strap, because I can't run. And that's okay. I'm not going to feel guilty for that. That is just the way it is. I will adapt to the situation, and he will have to adapt to grandma's situation.
That's it. Exactly. And
no shame, no blame, right?
No shame, no blame. And that's the thing, we're not put into a box of being normalized.
Right.
What
is normal anyway?
This is the problem.
Seriously, who decides what's normal?
There lies the problem, which is why there is nothing wrong with having a disability. It's just it doesn't fit in your box.
Yes. I think there's codes of conduct that we need to live by, right? Obviously, do unto others as they would hope they would do unto you. So kindness and caring, consideration, and all of those type of things, that should be a no-brainer.
Yes.
Right. So there's codes of conduct, but this whole thing is that you're not normal unless, well, you can keep your unless. I've always known I'm not part of the norm.
No.
And for a long time, for a long time I was the freak. And now it's like I'm Shashik. And it's like, I'm Sarah, oh, you've got to do your podcast like so-and-so. No, so-and-so does the podcast like so-and-so. I do it like Sarah.
Yes.
Take it or leave it. You can listen or not listen. And if you do listen, you like what we have to say. And if you don't, then there's somebody else that's your cup of tea. And it's okay.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
There is no one size fits all, right?
No. And that's okay, because otherwise we'd all be the same and homogenous.
Oh God, how boring.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, would we have repropriated? Would humanity still be around? Because I call that the droid syndrome.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Just like droids programmed, and then of course we have a lot of what I call the walking dead people. They're just not interactive in life at all.
No.
They're waiting for someone to switch them on. And it's like, it's so sad to see that. Because yes, life can be difficult. Yes, it can be a struggle. But my God, the rewards are just absolutely fantastic and worth living for.
Stepping outside that box and being creative is just such a joy. And we wouldn't be in the place where we are in terms of us as individuals, but the world as, technologically as advanced as it is, without that, stepping outside the box and having freaks.
Right, exactly. When we look at our technology, it's far more advanced than our own intellectualism.
Indeed.
And it's, one of the things is that is absolutely evident is that human beings are very slow to learn. We're very slow to change patterns. And even though we know this pattern is not serving us, this pattern is not making us happy, this pattern is not good for us, we will retaliate against changing it because it's what we know.
Definitely.
And in that kind of sense of mentality does need to change, because it stops us from growing. It stops us from being who we really are meant to be. And we're all meant to be contributors. And we don't want you to contribute your dysfunction.
No,
we want you to contribute your functionality in your beautiful gift of who you really are.
And we can't be worker monkeys.
No.
Which is what they expect.
Right. Right. Exactly. And everybody has a role to play. As I say, that, one of the things is discover what your instrument is, learn how to play it well, and then find that orchestra that you belong to.
That's it.
And then in that orchestra, you can grow. You're changing different pieces all the time, and you're growing along with that. You create a symphony that resonates out with everyone else. Because we're also meant to be, a team, a group, an orchestra, a village, we're meant to be together. But it's what we individually bring to the table.
Yes, exactly. I did actually cover this in an episode called How to Be Weird.
Oh, I'm going to listen to that one.
Yeah,
Are you
it's
speaking
true.
about me?
No, because I was like, I'm a weirdo. I
Oh, yeah.
can attest
Yeah.
to this
Yes.
totally.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they say, which is, yeah, as humans, we are social creatures, so we need to find other people, but
Yes.
find your people, find
Yes.
people like you. It doesn't have to be
Your
like
vibe.
you
Yeah.
have to change yourself to something else.
No.
So yes.
The changing of yourself is deleting of patterns that don't serve you, or other expectations that have been imposed upon you, or even
Yes.
ancestral things that were integrated in you. Right?
Yes, yeah,
And
exactly.
it's when we go to the very core of ourselves and we know who we are from the very core, and you'll know when you're connected to your core, because your core speaks.
Oh
Your
yeah.
core is most certainly your compass and your guidance system, most certainly. And you can't do anything against your core.
No.
You just can't, because you know that, if you've got to do that. Nope, my core says not. And it's not your head. The head's got nothing to do with it. The core knows it's wrong for you. It's not you. And so when we're
Yes.
willing to go in and really clean house and throw out everything
Yeah.
that was what my mother did. I didn't do that. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what
This no
happened
longer
to me. It's
serves
not
me.
me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Delete,
Mm.
delete, delete.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, I'm a wonderful blank slate now of my own self-discovery. Who am
Mm.
I?
Yes,
And be
definitely.
willing to go on that journey. My saying for 2022 is, paint your canvas what you want it to be.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, and don't look at other people's expectations.
Right.
This is the most important thing. I think I became very stunted because of that. I love
Yes.
art. So I've always painted or done some level of artwork. And I got very stunted in the middle because I expected everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
And art is subjective. So
Exactly.
it can be whatever
Exactly.
you like.
Exactly. 5 people looking at one piece of art, every single one of them is going to see something else in there.
Yeah,
It's like listening
exactly.
to a podcast or reading a book. Everybody's
Hmm.
sharing their perspective. Now you're
Yes.
getting a different picture because everybody sees things differently. We're not meant to paint for everyone to see it. It's
No.
for those who are ready to see it, ready to
Yes.
hear it, ready to read it.
Yeah. And that's the same with our audiences.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening to us are the ones who want to be there.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Exactly. Exactly. You are awesome. You really
You
are.
are too.
I can't, you're coming back on again. We've got so much more to talk
I
about.
know. We could go on for hours.
We
This is the
could, we
thing.
could. And I do have to kind of, but I don't want to, but you're coming back again, most certainly.
Excellent.
And so much more to talk about. But the how to be, the how to be is just allow yourself to be.
Yeah.
I think, I was saying, feel your thoughts, don't think them.
Yes. Very important. Very
Because
important.
when you feel them, that guidance system is there. How does it make me feel? Nervous, trepidatious, or it just doesn't fit? Well, there's a reason for it,
Yeah.
right?
You are not your thoughts.
No,
That's the
and your
thing.
thoughts will go, yes, but snap out of it. You've got to do that because they've said so. No, honor the feeling,
Yes,
right?
indeed. It's a
Even the insecure
CBT.
one. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Even your insecure ones, because your insecure ones are telling you that this doesn't feel right. But when
Mm.
it feels right, it's that knowingness where you don't need to validate or verify or justify. It just simply is.
Is, yeah, exactly. Mm.
And
That's
we want
exactly it.
people to get to that point where they trust that is.
Definitely. Definitely. And we're all on that journey, I hope,
Mm.
at some point. Yeah.
We're all meant to be on that journey.
We're all meant to be. Yeah.
And if we could stop living the exterior life and live the interior life, it takes care of the exterior that then serves the interior.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it's knowing why are you on that road? Where is
Mm.
that road taking you?
Where is
Is
the
that road
purpose?
serving you? Is it serving anyone else? And I think this is something we need to understand. We're all here to be of service to each other in
Yes,
one
very
way or
much
other.
so. Very
So
much so.
what's your contribution? Is it
Yeah.
serving anyone else? Is it serving you?
Mm.
Because that's really ultimately what makes the world goes round.
Definitely. Service is, I think, one of the most important things. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gratitude.
No, no. And without gratitude, we just have a bad attitude.
Exactly.
There's an author for you. She was 10 years old and she wrote a book, 365 Days of Gratitude with a Positive Attitude. And it's just simply every day what she was grateful for. And, you know, one of the statements she made in the show was, I just don't understand. If you're not happy doing something, why don't you
Why
just
you
change
do?
and do something that makes you happy?
Yeah.
And it's like duh.
Yeah.
But we'll
Yeah.
go along and keep doing something miserable and complain
True.
about it instead
And
of
complain
changing
about
it. Yeah.
it. Oh God, I know. God.
We're our
Totally.
own worst enemy, but
We
we
are.
can also be our own inspiration, right?
Definitely. Definitely. Absolutely.
So, how do people get hold of you? How do they get hold of listening to the podcast? And what else is coming up your way?
Okay, right. Thanks for that. So really enjoyed that. And I'm at www.howtobe247.com. You can find me on Instagram at howtobe247. And I run regular discussion sessions about these groups on Twitter Spaces. So it's at howtobe247 and also on Clubhouse. And so what's next is that I'm actually starting my second season next week, which is exciting. And we have some seriously hard-hitting topics coming your way already, going to absolutely mind bend you with these ones.
Yes.
So, you know, how to be unbecoming and disobedient, for example, very useful.
Yes.
And also we've got some pretty awesome authors coming this season. So we've got Nikesh Shukla, who is the author of The Good Immigrant, which is now across two different continents. They've made two different versions of it. One, the US, The Good Immigrant, the US version, and The Good Immigrant UK version. So this is going to be really interesting to see how do we be good immigrants. So yes, so lots of interesting subjects coming this way, you know, this year as well. So hoping everyone joins for this season too as well.
And they can find your podcast on your site.
They can. Yeah, it's probably the easiest place to find it. So
Right.
it'll be right on the front page. So yes.
And you know, I've been an immigrant twice. And you know, the thing about being an immigrant is that you bring your essence, you bring your ingredient, but one has to respect the canvas of which you are painting on. You know, that it has its own, you know, particular, that's the reason why you're there, if for what it represents and what you hope to grow there. And you know, it's not about bringing your own culture and dismissing the culture that you're now in. It's about immersing it, you know, in and creating that wonderful smorgasbord of creativity and possibilities, which is wonderful, which generally you will see in a second generation and not in the first generation immigrants. So done a few shows on immigration. Is really, and we're going to see a lot more migration in the future because of global warming. Yes. Sure. That's one we can talk about too. All right, we should bring that up in the next one. Yes,
definitely.
It's real, folks. It's here.
Yes, deal with it. It's happening.
And what can we do about it? Right.
Indeed.
How to be a part of the solution, most certainly. So she's coming back on again, most certainly, very, very soon. Love her. Her site again is How to Be 24/7. I love the title, How to Be 24/7. We don't want you to be it just for one day of the week. We want you to be 24/7. So, and we can be. Step into your awesomeness, your flawsomeness, the gift that you are, the purpose of the reason why you're here, your contribution. And when you do, you truly, it doesn't matter what obstacles you may have around you, you will be able to be a wonderful participant and an equation in the solution to life, and make you feel so much better for being so.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hope for all of us, really. Yeah.
It's step out, you know, step out of yourself to become yourself.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So yeah, we just want you to jump into your awesomeness, right? So yeah, because we've all got that capability. It's all in there. We do. Until next time, my dear.
Until next time, yes.
Very, very soon, have you back on again. Folks, it's been wonderfully insightful here today. Most certainly coming back. Lots more to talk about. But, the premises of it is that it doesn't matter what your challenges are, what your obstacles are. We learn from other people's stories. We learn from participating in life. We learn from our own challenges. They're not there to destroy you. They're there to enlighten you, strengthen you, and show you really what you can be. An athlete doesn't win the gold without going through all the pain and suffering. So, you can look for your own gold in life by just going through your own struggles and, becoming that wonderful medal in your own life. And the reason not for anybody else, for you. Because when you are being the best of you, you are now being the best for everyone else around you. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Please tune in to our selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see all the other genres that we have from you. Every week on Tuesday, we bring you new shows from illuminating people. If you know someone that should be interviewed, please contact us at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com. Now stay tuned for your next show.